Okay, good evening everyone. This is going to be my presentation on the work I've done with the thesis by now. It is called Exploring ESP Students' Perception of Explicit Instruction on Reading Comprehension Strategies for Technical Texts. This is the outline I'm going to use. I'll mention the problem, the question, the objectives, the methodology, the intervention itself, results, and conclusions. I know that there are many things that you're going to miss or to be missing from the presentation, but this has to be very brief. And also from results and conclusion, the data is not going to be very accurate since I haven't been able to analyze data yet. Okay, but let's start with the problem. To provide a context of it, I might say that for 4 years I taught the class of Technical English 2 in a higher education institution in Valparaiso. And for this class, the program targeted, and I'm quoting part of the program, applying previous knowledge and the use of methodological strategies focused on manual comprehension, aiming technical vocabulary recognition. Well, having this information, you can think of the type of class you have to teach, but the syllabus did not match the program proposal, and it was not clear on how the lessons should be taught. In fact, the syllabus was quite poor. With this mismatching from the program and the syllabus, and a lack of time from the teacher's part, classes were mainly focused on vocabulary, translation, and recognition of grammatical structures that were present in technical texts, which did not really match students' needs or did not focus on students' needs. What they really need or what they really needed, and also based on the program and future expectations of this workforce, was for these students to be able to comprehend technical texts, making use of their prior knowledge and not translating texts. By translating, you are not teaching students how to read a text in English. So the main question was, what are students' perceptions of a strategy-based instruction through ESP for the comprehension of technical texts? So the intervention was based on this question. And to answer the main research question, we have a general objective, which is identify industrial electricity students' perception of an ESP explicit instruction on reading comprehension strategies for technical texts. In order to accomplish this general objective, we have 3 specific ones. Determine students' previous knowledge on reading comprehension skills. Find out whether strategy instruction or reading strategies aids students' development on reading comprehension. And find out students' perceptions of the strategy instruction used. Okay? Well, in terms of the methodology, the type of study was descriptive and exploratory, with a qualitative methodology framed into an action research. Remember that this is a very brief explanation of the thesis. The participants are students from a second year course of Technical English 2 from a program on industrial electricity. There were 8 students enrolled, but data comes from 7 students because only 7 attended classes regularly. The intervention was were 6 lessons once a week for a 2 pedagogical hour block. And in terms of the data collection instruments, there was a pre-survey, a post-survey, and journal entries from the teacher and the students. So with this information, we need to make a triangulation. In terms of the intervention itself, the 6 classes were planned based on the responses from the pre-survey in an interview done to a teacher from the area in terms of the content students managed during the second year. what they covered during the first year, and they should know in the second one. So for teaching these strategies, Anne Ediger's proposal of reading with a purpose, and also including cognitive, metacognitive, and social and affective strategies were included, as well as were considered, as well as Bloom's taxonomy, since the students went from identifying to understanding. The strategies taught were scheming, scanning, identifying or determining important information, note-taking, and graphic organizers. All these strategies were related to approaching a technical text. In terms of the structure, I'm going to show you very briefly one of the lessons, so you can have an idea of the structure. Each class was very similar. They started with recycling from the teacher part. The teacher recycled the previous class. They talked about what they had done during the previous class. And then the teacher would talk about the objectives for this new one, for the objectives for the new class. So the classes had the basic three components of reading comprehension: pre-reading, reading itself, the while, and post-reading. For the pre-reading, students in this part of the class, students would share ideas in order to activate prior knowledge. They would talk about a certain topic, and as I said, they would activate prior knowledge here. For the reading stage, they would have to skim the text to have a general idea, and they would have to scan it then and take quick notes in order to have ideas for the next activity. In terms of the task, here we are recycling some information from graphic organizers from the previous class. So they have, for instance, two models of graphic organizers, and they have to choose one. So they can write down the problem and the solution that were presented on the text. After that, the teacher would pick one of the graphic organizers randomly, and as a class, students would have to share ideas and try to explain this graphic organizer. I might say that this part was quite challenging for students, since the level of proficiency is not very high. It's quite basic and elementary, but they are able to do this because they have the prior knowledge in their mother tongue. And after each class, students had to write down and analyze. They had to analyze the class and write down a journal entry. As I said, the level of proficiency is not very high, so it was done in Spanish. So students would have to talk about what was done, difficulties, easiness, the use of these strategies, and if they consider using these strategies useful for comprehension and organization of a text, for instance. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Well, in terms of the results, as I said, I haven't been able to analyze data yet, but I did say that from the pre-survey, students had I don't know if I could say had no idea, but students did not use any reading strategies while reading a text, because they said that in Spanish they understand the language, so they don't need to use reading strategies. And from the post-survey, I got that students gained some knowledge on how to approach a technical text in English. So they were making use of reading comprehension strategies to understand the text. I insist in English because they say that in Spanish they know the language, so there's no need of using reading strategies. Um, well, in terms of the conclusion, um, this was not an ESP course, but it was only a 6-week intervention, and it seems to me that it has more positive. It was positive for students, and this could be done in a longer period. It should be a longer intervention, or I don't know. It can be. You can even create a course, an ESP course with this, and because with the ESP course or with this intervention, we are targeting students' needs, and also I think that it should be longer, or it should be a course itself, so that way students have more time for practicing, for explanation, and for internalizing the knowledge, internalizing the use of these reading strategies. Well, I do not have many conclusions. I do not have many results because I have just read the data, but I haven't been able to analyze it. So I know that there are many things you may miss, and I don't know, many questions yet. But by now, this is what I've done.